Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be showing you the settings for the Logitech G29 wheel for the PS4 version of Assetto Corsa Competizione. I've had this game for a while now and I've been playing it every day since it came out last month. And initially when I started playing, the feeling that I got from the wheel was not great. It was very light to begin with and the inputs did not seem to be accurate in comparison to Gran Turismo Sport, which I mainly used to play before this. Now I juggle my time between Gran Turismo Sport and Assetto Corsa Competizione. Assetto Corsa has made my driving a bit better. Since it's a full simulation game, it has improved my driving a bit, as it does make me appreciate the balance of car and the weight transfer a bit more, which has reflected in my driving in Gran Turismo Sport as well. Okay, so back to the matter at hand. The wheel settings for the Assetto Corsa. The initial wheel settings that we have here gives a very light feeling to the wheel. I remember when the first time I started playing this, I felt like there was no feedback at all from the wheel, and it was a very mild force feedback that I could get even on a sharp 90-degree or a U-turn, which felt quite disconnected, to be honest. So I started tweaking the settings a bit, but I couldn't find the correct setting initially. I looked around on the internet, but since it's a new game on the console, there weren't much help available. I do have to say, some of the inputs that I have used for this video have come from Z28 Gaming channel and RS Drives. They are great channels, and if you're a beginner or an amateur who is learning to be better at racing, should definitely check the channels out. So taking some of the inputs from them, I started those values as a reference values, and also from my experience, which I found to be quite close to what they were saying. But even then, what I found was that at more than 80% gain, there's a snap that comes when you turn the wheel more than 30 degrees. That snap is quite unsettling. So I started reducing the gain, and I found that for the gain around 70 to 75% gives a good enough feel, heft as well to the wheel. Also minimizing that snap that comes when you bank a bit more at a high speed corner. That snap usually came at a high speed corner. On a low speed corner, the feedback from the wheel was quite linear, but in a high speed corner it feels like that the car is skidding. That's why we have a snap, but that's not the case. I don't know what the reason for that is. Maybe the force feedback input coming from the game is not linearly reflected by the gear drives of the wheel, but this is what it is. Next thing comes the minimum force. Everywhere on the internet, if you look, everyone says to put the minimum force to 0, but for G29 I don't think that's the case. I think RS Drives pointed it out that you should keep minimum, at least some minimum force. I tried using initially by going on the internet. Initially, when I saw that people were not using any minimum force, I put the minimum force to 0, and when I started playing it, it felt okay, but still something was missing. The feel was still light to turn, and there was no heft to the wheel. Since my primary racing game is Gran Turismo Sport, I usually prefer a heavy wheel in that. But playing this, I have come to accept a slightly lighter wheel as well. But still, having minimum force at 0 gives it a very light feeling during the turns. So if the car skids or loses grip, it's usually quite late that I get that feeling on the steering wheel, or visually. By that time it's late to correct that. So for the minimum force, I would recommend a setting of maybe between 8 and 10. That should be fine. For the dynamic damping, I've seen people mention that to keep dynamic damping at 50 as well, and some say that to keep it around 130 to 150. What I found to be the perfect setting was between 100 and 120. So depending on your force gain, minimum force, you can set it either to 100 or 120. That should be fine. Currently I'm using 110 as my dynamic damping, which gives me good enough linear force feedback while turning. There is no snap that I feel now. Only at a very high corners, when I turn a bit more, do I get that feeling. But overall it's manageable. It's not something which can distract you. Then next comes the road effects. Road effects, initially I had kept the road effects to quite high, around 80%. But what it did was it suppressed the force feedback information that was coming from the game, and all you can feel is are the road effects only. In a way, it does not accurately represent the force feedback that you should get. So have it keep the road effects at a lower level, around 20 to 25%. Below 20% you don't feel anything, so I won't recommend going below 20%. And now coming to the most important part of the wheel settings here, the steer lock. Initially I left it at the default setting of 540 degrees, and I thought it would be the same for all the cars, as is the case in the Gran Turismo Sport, where we can't really change the steer lock degree angles, but it reflects equally among all the cars. But here the steer lock is different for all the cars, and I was at times struggling on some corners where 80% of the times I was able to manage the corner, and at some times the car would just spin out, or there was a large overturn which I thought that I didn't initiate, and I was wondering whether I need to change the setup or not, because usually I just go with either the safe setup or the aggressive setup preset, as I am fairly new to this sim racing, so I don't have much experience in adjusting the setups. So I usually stick with the aggressive setup and try to find my way around it. But when I found out that the steer lock is different, it was a game changer. So here, as you can see, in the career mode I have chosen the Nissan GTR GT3 car, and in that the steer lock is at 640 degrees and not at 540 degrees. So this steer lock is the degree of rotation of the wheel, and it's weird that it does not match up right now. Maybe in a further update they will be able to fix this issue, but for now you can alter it manually. And to understand what I'm talking about, go into the game and keep the steer lock at the default of 540 degrees and select any car you want, and then into the game select the cockpit view with the steering wheel visible, and there just rotate the wheel slowly and see the simultaneous movement on the screen as to how much the movement of your wheel is being matched by that on the screen. And you will notice that at 90 degrees the wheel on the screen will not be exactly at 90 degrees, it will be somewhat offset depending on the degree of rotation variation. And to see it prominently, just rotate the wheel to complete 180 degrees on the screen, and then see your rotation on your wheel. It will not match up if the 540 degree lock is not correct for that car. So you will understand that whether you have over rotation on the game or under rotation, depending on your wheel position corresponding to that on the screen. So accordingly you can adjust the degree of rotation in the options menu. For the Nissan GTR, I have found that 640 degrees of rotation matches perfectly with the game, and since I have made those changes, my inputs into the car have become much better than what it was before. When I was doing my career race at the Zolder circuit, I had this problem of the car just slipping out even though I made the correct input into the corner. Now into the second race of my career have I realized that this also needs to be corrected. Another example is Ferrari 488 GT3, the 2018 version. If you select that car and set the wheel rotation at 540 degrees, and if you rotate, it will be slightly offset, not as much as the Nissan, because the accurate degree of rotation is much closer to 540 than the Nissan. For Ferrari, I think it is around 480 to 500 degrees. By doing this, you can accurately judge how much degree of rotation you need to set to be accurately represented by your wheel. I hope this will help you a lot in racing, as it has improved my experience in the game. And I must also mention that this degree of rotation varies with the car between the 2018 season and the 2019 season. So an Audi from the 2018 season will have a different degree of steer lock than the 2019 version. So keep that in mind. Before taking the car out for the lap, just see how much of a variation there is and set the degree accordingly. And by figuring it out yourself, it will definitely give you a pleasure in understanding one major aspect of this of the car. Certainly when I did it with my Nissan, it felt nice that I could appreciate the fact and could really fine tune it for my liking. And that's one of the good things about the game, that it has so many variables that it gives you the option of adjusting it to your preference. And one final point from my side is that I would advise you to keep different presets for different cars in the game, as the settings that I have told you might not exactly work for all the cars, as each has its different handling characteristics, and it does change the feedback coming into the wheel. So you may need to fine tune the settings a bit. Maybe set the gain 5 to 10% up or down depending on the car, and dynamic damping by 10 to 20%. But overall these settings should be fine for all the cars in the game. I have tried it in multiple cars, and this worked just fine, apart from the steer lock, which is different for different cars. So my recommendation will be to save different control presets for the cars, so that anytime you change the car, you just load that preset and you don't have to change the settings each time. So that's it from me in this video. I hope you like the video, and I hope this helps you in playing the game and it makes your experience better. If it did help you, please give the video a like and support the channel by subscribing it, and also hit the bell icon so you get notified about my future videos. That's it from me till then, and I'll see you in the next video.